Good morning and welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville. My name is Gail Seavey, and I am very pleased to welcome you this morning.
Well played. Awesome. Welcome to First Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Jay Tiefenbrunn, and I am very pleased to be your Director of Music Ministries. I'd like to invite you to join me in singing this morning with number 349 in the gray hymnal. Hymn number 349, We Gather Together. Please rise in body or in spirit, or prepare your body for singing. For the Beauty of the Earth, hymn number 21, and I'd like to remind you in verse 4 we sing sibling and cousin, parent, child. I'll remind you when we get there. For the Beauty of the Earth, number 21. Over and around us lies. this morning is number 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. Number 361. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. 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 Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Please take a moment to greet each other.
With full hearts, we affirm our relationships with one another. We recognize our agency and our connective power, and we accept our responsibility to be bold and courageous. We light this chalice, symbol of all that we are, all that we have done together, and all that we will be as our shared ministry encourages those within and beyond our walls.
I'd like to invite you to join your hearts and minds in worship with words that I'd like you to, if you would like, read responsively with me. They're number 515 in the back of the gray hymnal. And I'll ask you to read the italics. For the sun and the dawn, which we did not create. For the moon and the evening, which we did not make. For food, which we plant, but cannot grow.
For friends and loved ones we have not earned and cannot buy.
For this gathered community, which welcomes us as we are from wherever we have come.
For all our free churches that keep us human and encourage us in our quest for beauty, truth, and love.
For all things which come to us as gifts of being from sources beyond ourselves.
Gifts of life and love and friendship, we lift up our hearts in thanks this day.
Good morning. Let me introduce you to the island of Kiribati. Now, Kiribati is a tiny island nation in the Pacific Ocean near the equator, south and west of Hawaii. Its population is about the same as that of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The highest point on any one of the 30 islands that make up Kiribati is no more than 10 feet above sea level. I can almost reach that. Okay. For that reason, global climate change is a real threat to a low-lying place like Kiribati. And the reason for that is because the global climate change means rising sea levels. And rising sea levels cause flooding, coastal erosion, salinization or salting of freshwater sources by the seawater, and damage to the infrastructure, things like buildings, bridges, roads. And it's also damaging, or threatens to damage people's homes. Now, there is government money available to help protect public property, but not to help individuals protect their own private property. And so a number of people, residents on Kiribati Islands, are having to decide whether or not they can stay in the homes that they've been in for years, maybe even generations. Well, at least one woman is working to change that, and her name is Pelanice Alofa, and she's the director of Live and Learn Kiribati. She and her small staff travel to the outlying islands of Kiribati, and there they help people to combat the effects of the rising sea levels. They install water tanks so people have a fresh water supply available to them. They help build seawalls to hold back the rising tides. And they teach people how to advocate or speak up for their own rights that they're entitled to. Now, thanks to your gifts to guests at your table, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, is helping Pelanice in these works. Thanks to your gifts, she and her small staff can go to all over the islands, and now Pelanice is able to travel to outlying islands that she's not been to before and help those people there learn how to protect themselves from the effects of global climate change. Pelanice and the people of Kiribati, thank you.
Bam! Carrie woke up. Okay, I'm late for something. She's thinking to herself, what am I late for? And then she remembers. And she looks out the window and she sees where the bam is coming from. It's hammers. Her father and her brother Anthony are building a stage. Today is the block party day. And, well, it was her idea. A lot of other people are helping, but she still has a list this long. It's all crumpled. Lots of things are crossed off. You know, a few days ago, she even crossed off the talent show part because she couldn't figure out what she was going to use for a talent show. She just crossed it off. So she looked at her list. She got up and she wandered downstairs toward the kitchen. Mom! In here, dear. She walks in, and she's looking down, and her mother says, "Good morning. What's wrong?" "Well, Mom, today's block party day, isn't it? Shouldn't you be happy?" "I just wish I had something to do for the talent show." "Psh, you're already doing a ton. Don't worry about it. How about some breakfast?" "Could I have pasta?" Pasta, any kind, anytime, anywhere. Carrie loved it. So her mom made her some pasta and butter for her breakfast, what they called comfort food. And when she was finished, she took her list and she went outside and she ran into her friends, John and Anna Stephanopoulos. they had an awesome house. A few years ago, they put solar panels up on it, and they said this was their contribution, or at least some of it, to fighting the climate crisis. And they did other good stuff, too. They had one of those little guest-at-your-table boxes sitting on their dining table, and every night, everyone put something into it, even if it was just a couple of coins. Everyone put something in there. Anna was carrying a big pot, and she asked Carrie, "What are you doing for the talent show?" Carrie changed the subject. And she said, "What do you got in the pot?" "Orzo." "It's like pasta," John said. But different," Anna said. It looks like rice, it tastes like pasta, and my mom puts in some cucumber and olives and feta cheese. It's really good. And Carrie said, "Awesome. I love pasta. See you later."
Good morning. My name is River Plummer. I am the senior co-chair of the Youth Action Committee, and it is my pleasure to welcome you here in the sanctuary and those joining us online to worship this morning. In order to reach a wider audience or community than those able to be physically present on Sunday mornings, our services are live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. Joys and concerns are not live streamed or recorded. Before I continue, let me remind you to silence your cell phones. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We deepen our relationships as we create a compassionate, welcoming community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors worshiping with us this morning. We ask you to wear the paper name tags because it helps us recognize you as someone we'd like to meet. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. Whether you are new to Unitarian Universalism or visiting from another UU congregation, we invite you to stop by the welcome table after the service to have questions answered. People become members of this congregation by signing the membership book and supporting the church with their time and finances. If you are considering joining the church, please talk to our assistant minister, Denise Gouch. Or to Gail. Following the service, we hope everyone will enjoy coffee and fellowship in the social hall, where you will also find information about current opportunities for engagement and reflection. There are many announcements in the weekly bulletin, which I hope you will take home and read. And I have been asked to highlight these. So the 20s and 30s group is meeting for lunch after second service today in Classroom A, right off the social hall. Come join us for food and fellowship. Today is the last day to sign up for our Thanksgiving potluck. Please be sure to visit the fellowship's Thanksgiving table to sign up and help us get a vegan, vegetarian, and turkey preference count. We believe all Unitarians possess compassion for all living things within the diversity of our dietary choices. We hope to see you on Thanksgiving at noon. Thank you.
Monica Kirka came with her parents to the United States as refugees from Romania, where they were being persecuted by the communists who ruled there. Their move and everything it took to get them here to the United States was traumatic. Monica says that her family lost a lot of themselves during that process. Now, she wasn't talking about physical possessions that they lost. She was talking about other things like traditions, culture, relationships. That's why Monica founded Activate Labs, an organization that brings art, music, and storytelling to places where migrants, particularly those from Central America, pass through on their journeys. Their goal of this organization is to bring peace and healing to people who have fled their countries and the conditions that caused them to flee. Now, Monica's team bring art supplies and a boombox to places like food pantries, shelters, border walls, so that people there can tell their own stories in whatever way they choose, maybe through dance or through painting, through singing, or through making videos. In this way, these people can reclaim a little bit of what they have lost on their journey. Well, thanks to your gifts to guests at the table, UUSC is now working with Monica's group as they are preparing a video that documents the journey of one group of migrants through Mexico up to the California border, and then their prolonged detention in the United States. This documentary will be screened across the United States and will also be used to help other asylum seekers know more about the asylum process and possible migration routes. Monica and all the migrants that her organization has touched, thank you.
We've established that pasta is a good thing. So, I'm making noodles. I don't know about you, but I'm making a really long purple noodle while we're doing the story, okay? So, Carrie was on her way again, and she ran into her best friend, Fendra Diaz. And she was sitting on her back porch making her costume for what she was doing for the talent show that night. She was doing a dance. And they called out to each other, and Fendra said, "So did you decide what you're going to do for the talent show?" Well, Carrie was getting pretty good at changing the subject whenever anyone asked that. Oops. And she said, "Are you all ready for this? Your costume isn't even done. And what are you bringing? What are you bringing for food?" And she said, "Well, I'm bringing some of Abuela's macaroni and macaroni salad," which was wonderful. She was learning a lot about cooking from her grandmother in Puerto Rico. Anyway, they agreed they would meet up later that night, and Carrie continued on her way, and she came upon Mrs. Chinoisa. Very, very nice, sweet lady. They really wanted to contribute to things too, and so the Stephanopoulos had told them about that guest at your table box, so they had one on their table too. And Mr. Chinoisa played the flute in the city orchestra, and that's what he was going to do for the talent show. And they were talking, and Carrie asked, "What are you bringing?" "Oh, I'm bringing zaru soba." And Carrie looked confused. She said, "It's buckwheat noodles in a cold broth. I hope you'll try it." "Sure I will. It's pasta. Of course." And then she walked along, and Fendra caught up with her again, and they were talking about her mom. Because, see, her mom was this storyteller, really good storyteller. She went to the festival in Jonesboro every year, and she was just getting back, and she was going to tell stories at the talent show. So everything was looking real good, and Carrie was crossing some things off on her list and still avoiding the subject of the talent show as much as she possibly could.
today we are not doing joys and concerns up front because we're doing some other rituals and ceremonies. People can light candles in the back and fill out yellow slips if they have people that they want us to hold our visit in our pastoral care team. Jack Bleak will be making sure that that happens today, our lay minister. So I will be leading a meditation, and some of you know that in one of my past lives, I was a potter, very bad potter, but a potter. And so you all have Play-Doh, which is actually what I like the best. I like it even better, much better than clay, even though I like to dig out clay too. And it's actually made out of dough like noodles are, out of flour and water. And one thing that I still love to make is a pinch pot. Have any of you ever made a pinch pot? Yeah, some of you made pinch pots. So you know that you get your clay. Some of you have clay, right? And you can make a ball, right? And then you stick in your thumb, not all the way through because you want a bottom. And then you kind of pinch gently at the top. And then you kind of make a little row of pinches below that. And pinch a little circle. And then you make a little row of pinches below that. And it's very meditative. It helps you pay attention and be totally present and focused. And so if any of you want to make a pinch pot while I read a few words and then we'll go into silence, you're invited to do so. When we make a pinch pot, we are changing the shape of what artists would call positive space. And I like to think of that as what we're doing when we share our gifts with one another. We are shaping the world by sharing our gifts. But we're also making space on the inside. Now, that space was already there. There's space all around us. Really what we're doing is making that space visible. You're making a shape of space. And I think of that space as the place where we can receive the gifts of others. And some of those gifts are kind of invisible to us most of the time. Gifts like love and compassion and peace and justice. So let us spend a few moments thinking, imagining, or actually making a shape with our own gifts and a shape of space to receive those invisible gifts that others give us. I invite you in the spirit of prayer. If you are ill, may you receive gifts of support, or maybe you are the giver. If you are in pain, may you be open to gifts of healing, or maybe you are the giver. If you are worried for a loved one, may you receive gifts of comfort and connection. Maybe you are the giver. If you are struggling to understand, may you be open to the gift of a wise teacher or a patient listener. Or maybe you are the giver. If you are afraid, may you receive the gift of protection and safety. Or maybe you are the giver. If you are angry, may you be open to a deep breath and receive the gift of thoughtful response. Maybe you are the giver. If you are oppressed, may you be open to hope and receive a gift of empowerment. Or maybe you are the giver. If you are weary, may you be open to the gift of another's energy and received the gift of rest. Or maybe you are the giver. If you are anxious about tomorrow, may you receive the gifts of laughter and play right now. Maybe you are the giver. If you are hungry and thirsty, may you receive the gifts of food and drink. Or maybe you are the giver. If you feel friendless and alone, may you receive the gifts of belonging. Or maybe you are the giver. If your spirit feels empty, may you receive the gift of love. Maybe you are the giver. Blessed be, and amen.
I'd like to invite you to rise in body or in spirit as you're so moved. And as we sing number 1010 in the turquoise hymnal, We Give Thanks. We'll sing twice through, the first time for this time we share and the second time for this food we share. Number 1010. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this food we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Many of the migrants and asylum seekers coming from Honduras are fleeing their country and the awful violence that abounds there right now. And unfortunately, or whatever, the target of much of this violence is women. Marta Velázquez is a human rights defender in Honduras. She heads up an all-volunteer feminist organization that is part of a network of agencies across Honduras that are working to empower women and to help them reduce or eliminate gender-based violence. thanks to your gifts, to UUSC's Gift at Your Table, MARTA and other organizations in this network of agencies are able to document abuses against women, provide legal and humanitarian support to women who have been the targets of violence, and to provide support to those families that have lost women through the violence. MARTA and the women of Honduras, thank you for what you do.
I like to get it like really gooey soft and then squeeze it like this so it goes through my fingers. It's almost as good as mud, don't you think? Anyway, back to Carrie. She was going to Mrs. Max's house, her last stop, and they had some tablecloths that they were going to use at the party, and Mrs. Max had said she was going to make something called kugel. So when she got in there, Mrs. Max looked at her and said, "Carrie, is something wrong?" And you know what Carrie did. She changed the subject. And she said, "Oh, what smells so sweet?" "Well, that's the kugel I promised you." And Carrie sat at the table and she looked at this big pan full of these noodles and this butter crumb topping, and it smelled so good. And Mrs. Max said, "You know, Carrie, you have no reason to not be really happy right now." And she finally admitted, "I have nothing to do for the talent show. All my friends do, but I don't." And Mrs. Max said, "Why? You've done this whole party. Don't worry about it at all. And besides which, someone has to be audience. I'm going to do that. You can do it with me." Okay, so they took the kugel, they took the tablecloths, and they headed down toward the end of the block where everything was starting to happen. Along the way, Carrie was singing, "I'm being audience with Miss Max," along the way, to no one in particular, just happily singing it. And they got there, and Carrie went around to every single pasta dish at least twice. She was stuffed and happy. Now, Madame Blue got up on the stage, and she clapped for everyone's attention, and they all looked up, because, you know, when Madame Blue asks for your attention, you give it. She's a very nice lady, and when she was younger in France, she did a lot of work for women's rights. And even today, she is still a powerful feminist. She had taught Carrie a lot about how to stand up for herself and about how to stand up for others. So she got up there and she said, "Okay, I want everyone who worked on this party to stand up." And Carrie stood, and her mother stood, and everyone else who had helped, and everyone clapped for them. And it was wonderful. They all sat back down, and Madame Blue said, "Well, you know, we are going to have some dancing, but before we get to that, there is one special person who used her talents to make this happen. She's the one who always goes around talking to everyone. She's the one that got us talking to each other. She's the one who first had the idea for this block party. Carrie." Carrie's sitting there saying, "Me?" And Mrs. Max says, "Go on, get up there." Her mother prods her a little bit. And then her brother Anthony starts a chant, "Carrie, Carrie." So just for no other reason than to get him to stop that, she went up on the stage, and everyone clapped and applauded, and Madame Blue said, "Thank you for sharing your talent with us." So the party was over, It was the best party. It was the best pasta. And it was the best neighborhood.
So I'm confused, Marguerite. Is pasta noodles? Is noodles pasta? Because it said everybody loves noodles. So I just want to get clear because I'm confused. Yes, so that's all. Okay, so it's all but they're all kind of the same, is that? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I was a little confused. Sometimes we all ask each other's questions a lot. I hope you all do that too. But right now, it's my privilege to let you know that we're going to be passing the offering plate in a minute, and that this is the last week that we share the plate with the organization called Therapy ARC, and ARC stands for Animals Reaching Clients. It's animals that are trained to visit people in nursing homes and the hospital, and they even go to the library where children read to them. And so if you would like to give electronically, you can see how in the order of service, or if you're watching us out there, you can find instructions at our website. It's firstuunash.org. Ways to, and it's a / ways to give. And I just want to thank everybody here for their ongoing generosity.
The Clara Barton Society was created by a vote of the 1979 Biennial Convention to honor UU women aged 80 and over, and to recognize their contributions to the life of our religious association and women's organizations. As one of the newest members of the Clara Barton Society, Joan Moore joins over 730 other women who have been honored for their commitment, generosity, and service.
Joan, you are being honored for a lifetime of incredible leadership and service to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville, Tennessee, the UU Congregation in Tullahoma, Tennessee, the Mountain Retreat and Learning Center, the UU Women's Federation, the Southern Region, and the Unitarian Universalist Association.
Your dedication to UU women in particular has been outstanding. For helping to create a women's library and a women's group at FUUN, we thank you. You also started the first women's spirituality and pagan groups at FUUN and have served tirelessly in so many capacities for the UU Women's Federation.
For being a leader of the Women's Spirit Annual Retreat at the Mountain, we owe you our gratitude. And so many children are able to attend the Mountain Summer Camp because of your tireless fundraising efforts. Your membership as a Mountain supporter, your time serving as a Mountain board member and ambassador are all noted with pride. And your name will not ever be forgotten there, especially in the Joan and Joe Moore room of the Lodge at the Mountain.
The UU Congregation in Tullahoma is also in your debt for your time serving as their Director of Religious Education. We thank you for also being active through the years at FUUN on the Religious Education Committee and for teaching numerous classes for children and adults alike. We also can't forget the many times you have served FUUN as a delegate to the Unitarian Universalist Association's General Assembly over the span of more than 60 years.
Joan, these are just some of your extraordinary accomplishments toward the betterment of our shared faith. Our gratitude is deep and wide. We are thankful that you are one of us, and we are proud to call you ours.
I don't know about, and did any of you pinch a pot? Did any of you do that? Oh yeah, there's a beautiful pinch pot. Oh, I like what you did with the lip at the top. Very nice. So I'm going to use this as kind of a metaphor today, a symbol, because when we share our gifts, we're making a shape out of ourselves, and we're making a shape in the world. For instance, when Joan Moore shared her gifts of teaching and creating new ways for people to get together and learn both about religion and spirit and support one another, she was shaping herself, making herself, and increasing capacity to do that. But she was making very real things, connections between people, institutions, a church, a camp. Just like all the women that Gail Sphar talked about who are working all over the world, they are shaping the world so that there's more safety, so that there's more of the basic things that they need to live, food and water and keeping their land safe, so that there's more healing. All these are very concrete things. And we all increase our capacity and the capacity of our real world to care for one another when we do that. But look, we're also increasing our ability to see those invisible things that we're creating. What were some of those invisible things? Any of the, yes? What? What did you say, honey? I couldn't hear. Talents.
I got some little Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah. So they're talking about the talents that maybe still feel invisible to them because they're still finding them and they're not quite sure what they are, and we're always learning to shape them more and more. But a lot of the invisible things that we can see here are all around us all the time. Think about space. Look at this room. This room, we love this room because it helps us feel the space. Look at it. Doesn't it kind of expand our whole body? We kind of rise up in this space. It lifts us up. And then when we look out at the windows, we look out at the space in the sky, and it takes us out maybe forever. Maybe that space goes on forever. I don't know. None of us know. It's a mystery. But it is the same as other invisible things that are really there. Space is really there. Love is really there. Justice is really there. Compassion is really there. Peacefulness is really there. And we're expanding that. Yes. The internet is really there, which shows the depth of all the interconnections, that energy, that we are all connected in so many profound ways that we don't even see. Thank you. That's a very important one, those interconnections. So, what I have learned is that something else increases, our capacity increases as we share our gifts with the world, and that is our capacity to be grateful, and our capacity to receive the gifts of the world. You can put in your orzo noodles or your kugel noodles or whatever. You can receive those gifts of the world, the love and compassion, and that also increases our capacity to be thankful. So on today and this week ahead, when you are gathering with real people, with real food, and real connections, may you see how you give each other your gifts. You're also receiving of those love and connection and peacefulness and compassion and justice.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to do a little ritual that we do every year to remind us of that, so we can think of it all week as we join together in Thanksgiving. It's this year, we're sharing noodles. We're going to do that to recognize and honor our abundance, this abundance of our real gifts, our ability to give them, our ability to receive them, by giving what we have and knowing that we always have something to give. We will celebrate this abundance with ritual of sharing one of the most simple and universal of foods. It is both a tradition of our ancestors of many faiths and a ritual celebrating the abundance of our beloved community gathered here together. Today, we share the abundance of noodles with you. So, first, there's in the program, there is a responsive reading that I believe is, how is it titled? I can't have it up here. The Ritual of Sharing. And after we read that, we have bowls of noodles in 4 places, here, in the back, and 2 kind of table settings on that back table, where the greeters are. And because I like slimy things, but people noted to me that not everybody likes slimy things, so we have cooked noodles that have been dried, like ramen noodles, and the big bowl has rice noodles in them, and the smaller bowls have wheat noodles in them, and they're all crunchy and they're all vegan. So, let us do our ritual. And I should have brought it up. The earth brought forth grains from tiny seeds.
For the abundance of the earth's goods.
Harvesters gathered the grains for others to use.
And we give thanks for the abundance of the harvester's hope.
Cooks kneaded the dough made from those grains and prepared the noodles.
And we give thanks for the abundance of the cook's energy.
We gather to share the noodles with one another.
And we give thanks for the abundance of the love that binds us together.
May you all find some noodles to share, whether you eat them yourselves or put one in your bowl or in somebody else's bowl at this time. We give thanks for the abundance of the love that binds us together. And after the service, after the chalice extinguishing and the final words, anyone who wants to go outside with me around the playground and share some of our dried noodles with the animals and the birds out there, you're invited to come out with me. Now we will sing our closing hymn.
Please rise in body or in spirit or prepare for singing our closing hymn, number 69, Give Thanks for the corn and the wheat that are reaped, number 69. Give thanks for the corn and the wheat that are reaped, for the labor well done, and for barns that are heaped, for the sun and the dew and the sweet honeycomb, for the rose and the song and the harvest brought home. Give thanks for the mills and the farms of our land, for craft and the strength in the work of our hands, for the beauty our artists and poets have wrought, for the hope and affection friendships have brought. Give thanks for the homes that with kindness are blessed, for seasons of plenty and well-deserved rest, for our country extending from sea unto sea, for ways that have made it a land for the free.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'd like to close with these words by Barbara Peskin. May the glory of the passing away of autumn lie about us, fresh gold for a while. And when the dark comes and the cold, may we remember how today we stand in glory, how we walk in bounty heaped upon earth's dark carpet, how we move deep, knee deep in abundance, flung against night's winter curtain. We are thankful for its coming and for its passing. Let it be. This service is over. Let our service begin again, renewed.